You get to watch me while I eat live for a minute because my schedule's been packed and I got to go directly to watch a movie with the kids after this. So I didn't forget though. All right. Another day, another live video that is starting to get some traction in the rewatches. Like, so I'm excited about that. I was really hoping for a more active process. I was really hoping for a more active process while I was doing this, but I'm still glad to see that people are engaging on the back end. So sometimes what you get is not exactly what you want, but sometimes what you need is also not what you want. So I've been happy to do that as well. So today, so yesterday we're every day for the next 9 days we're going to be talking about ADHD struggles and how I would like let's just say how I would coach myself before I started to lean into the honesty that I live in now. So yesterday we talked about making things bigger than they are and like letting that idea of fear like make us stop acting in life and just kind of give that paralyzation that comes from that. So today we're going to talk about masking. Um, Masking is something that I've talked about pretty extensively. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a podcast called Authentic on Air, and I've talked about it masking a lot on there because the like the lack of authenticity that I brought to the table in a lot of different situations really just betrayed so much of what I wanted in life, and I didn't really understand that was what was happening until um, it was far too late in many situations, and I want to push so hard for authenticity because I feel like in every situation where I've gotten myself in trouble or where I've been a disservice to my future, it's been by not being authentic. Um, which I recently had a an experience that I'll talk about later this week. Whenever it comes to being upfront and honest, and it not being in your best interest, but that's going to happen sometimes too. But with that, I still know that whether somebody's feelings were hurt or not, I was going to feel icky or gross, or I wasn't going to feel true to my values if I wasn't honest in the situation. And I can't shoulder the other person's burdens because I've got my myself to take care of, my values to preserve, and if you're unable to take a statement of fact because of your own burying your head in the sand, like I can't. I'm sorry, that's not for me to protect. And I try to be a gentle human being, but when it comes to that, if I'm just trying to be honest with you and give you a piece of information, like you know, I hope the best for you, but all I can do is give it to you, and you can take it however you want to. But anyways, masking. So if you don't know what masking is the behavior of basically changing how you appear in a situation because you think it'll be more palatable to the different aspects of the situation, whether it's like showing up as a completely different version or diluted version of yourself at work, or if it's you know trying your best to mirror like conversation and like social signals because you don't actually understand why people do those things, but you just do them because you think that's how you get along with people. And for ADHD people, this is often a struggle because we don't understand a lot of the like neurotypical conversation patterns, and like we can see them, but because we don't like really identify with them, it feels unnatural to engage in them. But if you're trying really hard to be accepted by a group of people, you will find yourself doing that. And this happened to me whenever I joined the fire department. I I so badly wanted to be like the great firefighter that my dad had always dreamed of, and I took that on to such a degree in which it was a really heavy weight. And then whenever I got on, it is a process of like destruction, of just tearing down everything that you are to build you back up in the vision of the fire department. And I didn't have a problem with that part, but then on top of that, there's also this social structure, this boys club, this good old boys club specifically, and then there's just like certain things are so frowned upon, and you're like not supposed to talk about your emotions, and you're not supposed to um, ever have excuses for anything, or which the difference between an excuse and an explanation is how the person receives it. And for me, like I am a person who's always trying to figure out why either I messed something up or why something messed up, or what the cause was, so it doesn't happen again. Like, and sometimes I try the same thing in a very just slightly different way because I didn't really understand what happened last time, and that's got me in trouble too. I call myself a boundary finder, but in this particular case, my wanting to understand how a situation went wrong, well, it's like, well, why didn't you pull the hose line faster? It's like, oh, whenever I got up there, like my feet were positioned weirdly, so I wasn't able to stop making excuses. That didn't make any sense to me. Like, why did you ask me? Why did I? If your answer was going to be like, shut up, I don't care. And that was a consistent kind of behavior that I was often confronted with, and I never understood it. I was like, why are you asking me why if you're going to tell me to shut up as soon as I tell you? And this was something that like really bothered me, but because I wanted to get along so bad, I just stopped explaining. And it drove me crazy. It was like I'm just thinking like there's a reason why I did that thing, but I'm going to just not say anything. And as this happened more and more, like every time I did it, like I felt like a pang in my stomach. It was just like a stab in the gut. It's like I just wasn't being honest to myself. It was like there's a reason why this happened, and I wasn't allowing myself to express it, even if they weren't going to hear it. Like I didn't have to stop myself to stop from what I thought was getting in trouble, but was actually just being like criticized for for a certain kind of social behavior. And and in the fire department, because you live with each other and it's a 24-hour thing, you can write somebody up for not liking them. Like you have to finagle it in a certain way, but you can definitely start to uh demerit people for character flaws, like what you consider to be character flaws. If everybody kind of gets on the same page and is like, yeah, I don't really get that guy, he doesn't really want to be part of the team, and it's like, well, what does that mean? He doesn't want to watch the shows we want to watch. Is that the same as not wanting to be part of the team, or is that being the only black person in the entire district and having different likes and dislikes than all these white people I work with? Like, I will watch a lot of like typical social shows, but sometimes whenever you want to watch like Duck Dynasty for 7 hours, I'm not interested. I don't want to watch Fox News for 24 hours. Like, there's things that I would prefer to just go sit out by myself and read a book or watch a show on my own, and that would be seen as me being the problem versus there being some sort of self-awareness inside that group of the people who all looked the same, that maybe he might have some sort of different interest. And once again, I wanted so badly to be accepted in that group that I did a lot of things that weren't actually me. Like, I can make myself like something, so I try that. But whenever it came to pretending like I'm not an intellectual person, or, you know, having a conversation where we're talking about some sort of deeper topic, and if I as soon as I say something, it's like, oh, shut up, Bruce. And then I started to actually shut up. From the time I started that job to about 3 to 4 years in, like, I had completely shrunk down my intellectual capacity to fit into, like a tiny little, one of those little capsules you get from the quarter machine at the grocery store. Like that's what was left of me, because I literally wasn't allowed to do anything that really engaged my actual personage. Like, if I wasn't acting like who I felt like they wanted me to be, I was literally being criticized every time I opened my mouth. And that was really, really hard. And um like, that's the situation I was dealing with. To keep it fairly brief, like, how I would handle that as a coach now is I didn't understand the importance of relationship building in, like, any sort of work atmosphere. Like, it's extremely important to, especially neurotypical people. They want to deal with people more who they enjoy dealing with than somebody who does the job fantastic, like, just amazingly well. They don't I'm not going to say they don't care if the job gets done correctly, but they would much rather have somebody who does the job, eh, but they really like to have water cooler talk with any day. So I kept getting these situations where it's like, man, I'm doing this right, but they don't like me because I didn't do the parts that allowed me to proactively build relationship. So, um, my client that I'm coaching now, like, I'm really trying to help him avoid this situation, because he'd gotten to where he's a fantastic employee as far as you look at it on paper. But he'd gotten to a point where every time there was a problem, people were like, at his door complaining about things. And, it was putting a lot of stress on him. It was making him irritated. He was starting to dislike the people he was working with because they were always complaining. So I asked him, like, how often, like, you know your job really well, right? Well, yeah, of course I do. Okay. So these problems that are happening, could you prevent them by being more proactive about helping other people strengthen their weaknesses? I was like, well, yeah. It was like, sounds like a lot of work. And and I said, it is a lot of work, but also, isn't it a lot of work and on a time crunch, and you're irritated and other people are pissed off whenever it comes back to you in the back end? And he agreed with that. So what we decided to do was to try to take a much more proactive approach to both avoiding these problems by being an upstream service to people, by saying, like, I know this person and this person have struggled with this thing on a project like this in the past, so I'm going to go, like, assist them. Like, hey, I remember last time we did this, we had a little bit of issue with this. I just wanted to offer my help to make sure you understand how this process works. Like, not trying to be condescending, not trying to, it's like really having no malice whatsoever, and it not being a selfish thing, about being of service, and, like, honestly trying to give the intelligence that a lot of ADHD people have. We are really good at, especially, like, taking on a lot of, like, niche subjects in our careers, and becoming so much better at it than everybody else. But then, because we are not necessarily the kind of social that neurotypicals are used to, we don't ever share that information because we're too busy focusing on doing the job that we're so good at. And as good as that is, I encouraged him to just get out from behind his desk 3 to 4 times a week and just start going out and planting those seeds, and starting to become seen around the office as a person who is proactively going out of his way to be of service. And this, there's many different ways that this is going to improve your your career environment. For one, people that you haven't liked working with in the past are going to start to soften to you because they're going to see that you are actively trying to be of service. And sometimes, like this is, you know, my experience as an ADHD man is that a lot of times people misunderstood my intention because I was focused so hard on just trying to get the job done as me being an asshole. I don't think I'm an asshole. Like I can be very brash. Like that's something I can definitely be. But whenever it comes to like me not having anything I'm irritated about, like I'm never just going to be mean to somebody for no reason. But like I would have nothing, and it's just be like, you just seem like you're kind of, you're kind of a jerk. And I'm like, really? And what I figured out is that it's because whenever I was at work, I was just focusing on being at work. And then whenever I went to the gym, it's like I was focused at being in the gym. And whenever, I was going out on fundraising calls, I was focused on that. There was never that part where somebody else, a neurotypical person would say, "Hey, so and so, you want to run with me up to the store?" I was like, that to me was like a waste of time. It's like I'm already struggling with time so bad. I don't have extra time to give to somebody else. But if you never give to anybody else, you're never going to build those relationships. So you have to find ways to proactively give those things. So whenever you're feeling the time crunch or you're feeling focused on something else and you have to say, "Oh no, I'm really busy right now." You've got some emotional deposits in the bank to where they're like, well, okay, he has been really helpful lately, so he must just really be busy. Versus you saying no every time somebody talks to you because you're always too busy, and then never being proactive to go seek and help other people. So, anyways, like it's going to make it better for other people who want to work with you, or who work with you. It's going to make it better for you because if you are amazing at your job, you're going to notice that other people are not as good. And if you were working most industries, somehow the work of other people, no matter how great yours is going to bring yours down somehow. It's either going to slow down the process of your progress, or it's going to feed back into you somehow and like just add more of a workload. So if it's going to come to you anyways, if it's going to be an obstacle for you, let's be proactive and let's find a way to go upstream and to like lighten the flood that's going to come down later on by not being helpful and by like outperforming everybody else. Like if you're doing so great, if you look at it objectively, like I do my job so good, I'm so good at it. Okay, if you're so good, then it's not going to hurt you to take a total of 45 minutes a week and go out and work with people in your office, helping make them better. And the overall accumulation of that over a career, like let's, even if you don't stay there for a full career, if you stay there for 5 years and you're going out 15 minutes a week, like that is a huge amount of time. Somebody who's good at math, do in your head 15 minutes, uh I'm sorry, 45 minutes a week times 52 weeks a year times 5. That's a lot of minutes, many hours, and that's all going to be time that you poured into other people. Whenever you leave that place, it's not going to be carrying your box out in a rush, and having security chasing you down. It's going to be like you're ready to go and you've used that job to leverage yourself into a better position. And they gave you a phenomenal recommendation because you cared. And it wasn't just like I cared on my single project and I cared about my results. You cared about the team and you helped to make everybody better. And is unselfish as that sounds, it can be selfish too. It's like if you work to bring it the entire like efficiency of your team up, it is good for you. Like it is both extremely unselfish and selfish. It's great for you. So look at however you need to make that effort and focus on working hard on your work, but also focus on working hard on building relationships by doing the work. Like if you're in a like this is what I told him is like you love your job, right? You get excited to talk about the different software and technologies and different part of it. He's like, yeah, I love it. I was like, great. And so let's go take that and teach somebody something. And not only do you get to build that relationship, which is not really that big of a deal to you, but you get to talk to somebody about the stuff that you enjoy talking about. How often Do us as neurodivergents get to have conversations about the things that we like to geek out about? If you make it a work thing where you're giving them something of value, you get to talk about your thing that you enjoy more without them being like, what is this weirdo droning on about? If you start talking about it at lunch and you're just like, oh, that new program we came out with is so awesome, and you just overload people with information, they're not going to get any value out of it. And they're going to just say, well, like, it's cool that he loves it so much, but he's never shown me anything about it. So, like, I don't know, like, that just isn't going to really endear you to people unless it's somebody else who was also like you, was like, yes, this technology is ridiculous, I love it. But once again, generally, if you have that person, you already have a great relationship with them. It's the people who don't get geeked out about this type of stuff that need. It's like really the people who are totally unengaged with that part is kind of who you need to be out there for. And whether you're actively offering them your assistance, which if you like really clash heads, maybe you shouldn't start there, but start with somebody that's by them. And like, just help somebody who's by them and let them see that you are out here making an effort and trying to like, build community out of your office or your, whatever your work situation is. But that is the way that I was supposed to be talking about masking today. And I feel like I got a little bit off, but I still feel like, yeah, okay, no, I got there reasonably. So the reason why I got to, actively assisting your team is that instead of trying to make people like you by being somebody you're not, take who you are and leverage it as a tool. Like, if you are a person who is great at sales, then leverage it as a tool to somebody who's not that good. Say, hey, John, I've noticed that you've kind of struggled in sales the last couple of quarters. Come out with me on the next sales call. Like, let's do it together. Michael Scott him. Like, show him what your process is. Don't be a gatekeeper of information. Like, that time is over. Like, you got your job, and very few people are going to be able to do what you do the way you do anyways, but they can benefit from your information. Leverage who you are as a tool to help people understand why to like you. Don't try to make somebody like you by being someone you're not, which is that's what I did. And that's what I've seen as a very familiar thing in ADHD people in unfamiliar situations, just trying to make people. Like, you can't force people to like you. Either they do or they don't. And you can give them information or, evidence to possibly tip the scales one way or the other. But you can't make them by force of will and by trying to pretend somebody that you're not. All you're going to do is like give them a weird feeling about you because you're not as good at lying as you think you are. And even if you are, it comes off as shallow. And even if it comes off as a real person, it doesn't come off as a real person. You're acting like you are. So that's wrapping that up today. Once again, if anybody is interested, I've still got four more. Wait, I've still got three more free mini coaching packages that I'm giving away. Once again, that is 4 weeks of 30-minute sessions, completely free coaching, no obligation, no nothing. I just want to help, a few more people with the extra time I have, which is not a whole lot. So things are starting to fill up. I'm getting a lot of things going, and it looks like I'm going to be able to continue working at home. So I'm really excited about that. If you have any questions ever at all, you can always hit me in the DMs, or you can email me at bruce@authenticidentitymanagement.com. Check out my website at Authentic Identity Management. If you are, AuthenticIdentityManagement.com. If you're just more like curious about who I am, what I do, and on there you can find my free ebook that tells a little bit about my story, and also gives you 7 of the shocking ways that you are ruining your life by pretending to be content. And that's, like, I think, is a really good ebook that is really valuable in helping see why it is such a detriment to your life to pretend like you're just okay when you're not. I've also got my 5-step blueprint to unmasking on there, and you can get all of that stuff on my website. Everybody, don't forget about my podcast. Also, it's Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander. The new episode drops of that tomorrow on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Everybody out there, have a great night, a great tomorrow. Be yourself and love yourself.